There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of a Nephilim. The Genesis 6 narrative states that the Nephilim are on the earth in those days and also afterwards. If that's true, can we find evidence that corroborates this? I'm L.A. Marzulli. Join me as we go on the trail of a Nephilim. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. I am on the trail of a Nephilim, and we'll be getting into that and so much more. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Collagen is often referred to as our modern-day fountain of youth, and for a good reason. Our body loses its natural ability to produce collagen as we age. This is the reason why we see a visible decline in our skin, hair, and nails. Supplementing collagen can help reverse those visible signs of aging, but we have to make sure we're getting it from the right source. This multi-collagen uses a unique blend of the top 5 critically most important types of collagen our bodies need to help bring back the youthfulness into our skin, hair, and nails. Folks, mix it into the morning drink once a day. That's what I do. And watch as your body re-energizes and rejuvenates itself from the inside out, thanks to this powerful blend of collagen. If you've ever wondered how celebrities keep their skin, hair, and nails glowing, now you know. Folks, order it today to get a bundle of benefits like VIP health and fitness coaching for life and a new downloadable report called The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin. Completely free. Folks, please be sure to go to healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com, or click the link below for more information. I'd like to thank Mark and Cynthia Ragsdale for sending this to me, and the subject, extremely interesting history of giants in Tennessee. I was curious about possible giants in Tennessee due to the Pinson Mounds in West Tennessee, near Jackson. So I started doing research on the Choctaw tribes, which lived in Tennessee. Their oral history talked about, get this, the Choctaw oral history talked about white, blue-eyed giants they would often do battle with due to the giants' cannibalism towards the Choctaw tribes. Where have we heard this before? If you go back and watch last week's On the Trail, it was about Lovelock Cave. It was about the Sitka. It was the giant handprint that was magically erased from the way in the back of the cave. It was about Sarawinamaka talking about the red-haired, six-fingers cannibalistic giants. It's everywhere. They were here in the Americas. And so what amazes me is, even though we have the oral tradition, even though we have newspaper articles and records and First Nation people telling us what's going on, no, that's not good enough. People didn't know how to measure. Well, Native Americans just made this stuff up. We're going to tell you what's happening. So who's really the racist? See, this is what happens. When you go up against the prevailing narrative, you're immediately called a racist. Or it's pseudoscience. Well, excuse me, this is a record. The Choctaw, let me put it to you this way. I believe in the oral tradition of the Choctaw more than I do in modern day anthropologists who just dismiss it with a wave of the hand. Now, I'm broad brushing. Not all anthropologists, not all archaeologists do that. The paradigm, I believe, is shifting. So let's continue. So one rabbit trail leads to the next. I discovered this published history. I included subsections of the writings for you to review. I think you'll find this interesting. On Cherry Creek in the county of White, in northwest direction from Sparta, are the remains of a large town in the field of Mr. Howard. Several mounds are from 12 to 14 feet high, and some of them are 20 feet above ground before they were cultivated. These mounds in the inside are hollow. A horse and plowing in the field fell into one of these mounds. It's pretty amazing. and some of them have sunk into a basin since the clearing of the ground. In this field was found an image or a bust from the waist upwards. The head was well carved, with the mouth, nose, and eyes all in perfect symmetrical proportion. The polish was very smooth. I'm going to stop right there. What I think you'll find interesting, in our film, which I've been working on for over a year, but the UFO film is taking precedence over on the trail, at least for the time being, but I'm close. I sat down with a gentleman who has a bust, okay? And is it what we're looking at here? Could be. Could be. Could be the same bust that they're talking about here, because it's from like here up. It's not the waist. It's more like the chest area and up. But it's clearly of a white man. There's no doubt about that. And when we actually started filming, and this is all in the film, by the way, Kent had never seen the detail that the camera brought out was just startling. And this is all, of course, in an up-and-coming film. So let me continue. The polish was very smooth, the substance of which it was made is white on the inside, glittering with specks, and the outside of a grayish color. There were also plates of the same substance, with Indian pots in the form of soup plates, carved on the edges and sculptured. Half a mile from this place, at the foot of the mountain, is a large cave full of human bones, perhaps several wagon loads, some of which are small and others are very large. Stop right there. We know in Ohio, for instance, that there's a graveyard of what they can only describe as pygmies. So the giants are there, and right next to them is another graveyard with these smaller entities. What are we looking at? In my opinion, it is genetic manipulation by the fallen one. This is why we get the difference of the Nephilim tribes in the Levant. We get Nephilim, Zamzummim, Emims, the Horites, the Zamzummim, and the list goes on. So let me continue here. The underjaw of some of them, Mr. Howard could have put over his face, and he is 6 feet high. So we're looking at the mandible, right? So the mandible, here's my jaw. So if the mandible goes like this, we're looking at a pretty big guy here, but we'll see what happens. He says they must have been at least as large as he is. These, I suspect, are the remains of those gigantic men of the North who overran and depopulated Tennessee and Kentucky, and partly expelled and partly extirpated the Aborigines. And if so, very probably this bust was not an idol, but a mere representation and sculpture of the human figure. What are here called mounds are but the round houses in which the inhabitants lived, which in a fallen state are not more than 2 or 3 feet high. So I'm going to skip down a little bit. First, then, of their size. This is ascertained by the length and dimensions of the skeletons, which are found in East and West Tennessee. These will prove demonstratively that the ancient inhabitants of this country, either the primitive or secondary settlers, were of gigantic stature compared with the present race of Native Americans, okay? On the farm of Mr. John Miller of White County are a number of small graves and also many large ones, the bones in which show that the bodies to which they belonged when alive must have been 7 feet high and upwards. You know, folks, it basically goes on, and what I love about this, there is a hidden history. And we know that when all this happened at the turn of the 19th century or into the late 1800s, like 1870, 1880, and up into the 1900s, we know that as the white settlers came in and began to examine these things, examine these artifacts, that something else was going on here. These were not Native Americans, but of course we know, and we talked about this in our very first film, The Mysterious Mound Builders, that several people, the Smithsonian, several people who were in charge of anthropology and the archaeological community stated that, well, Native Americans just built all these mounds. They just forgot that they had done so. And this is the paradigm which, if you send your kid to college and he's a first-year archaeological student, guess what he's going to learn about? There are no giants. Native Americans built all the mounds that you see here, and they just forgot that they had done so. How convenient is that? And yet we have, absolutely, we have written documentation over 100 years old, stating that there were giants in the land. How much evidence do we have to present before people start waking up and going, wait a minute, something is going on? It's not a racist. I'm not a racist. I just want the truth. I just want the truth. If Native Americans don't know about the 18.5-year lunar cycle, then they don't know about it. If they have nothing in their oral tradition or written on some buffalo hide or deer hide or something about advanced geometry, then how, pray tell, did they construct the mounds with advanced geometry in them? Of course, I'm speaking of the complexity of the octagon mound in Newark, Ohio. It encompasses 50 acres. You've heard me talk about this before. It's an unequal octagon. And if I challenge the prevailing paradigm and say Native Americans didn't do this, immediately I'm labeled a racist. No, I'm not. And the analogy I've been using is, as an Italian American, if I come to you and say, well, the Italians invented the airplane, you're going to say, LA, you're wrong. The Italians did not invent the airplane. The Wright brothers did. Does that make you a racist? Because you challenged me? Of course not. What is the truth? We have written testimony of skeletons found in caves, in the mounds, that are 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall. We know that. And to say that doctors didn't know how to measure is absolute nonsense. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back next week with another On the Trail. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Crop circle video, it's ready to go. You can go to lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net, download everything. By the way, tomorrow on our UFO update, I've interviewed John D'Souza. I think you'll find the interview very interesting. It was a friendly exchange. I could have gone deeper. I could have pressed certain points, but I didn't. Not the first time. But we got into some stuff, and I think you'll find that interesting. By the way, I will be at Calvary Chapel in Missouri on June 9th and 10th. I'll be speaking there. Please sign up for that. Hope to see you there. Hope we have hundreds and hundreds of people. It's my only appearance in Missouri that I'm aware of this year. So I hope to see you there on June 9th and June 10th. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching On the Trail of the NEPHILIM. Remember, there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the NEPHILIM.